Welcome to this training video on the Lingering Hemlock Project, presented by the Hemlock Restoration Initiative and the New York State Hemlock Initiative as part of the Nature Conservancy's Tree Species in Peril project. This training exists to help you properly identify lingering hemlocks, to assist with the preservation and restoration of these ecologically important, beautiful trees and the ecosystems that they inhabit. This video is one of a series that details the different elements of this project. Other training and informational videos can be found on our website. The Lingering Hemlock Project has been tasked with developing protocols to identify lingering hemlock trees in areas infested with hemlock woolly adelgid and possibly also infested with elongate hemlock scale that can be deployed as follows. Across the eastern U.S. and eastern Canada, for eastern hemlock, Tsuga canadensis, in a variety of habitat conditions, by trained individuals, both professionals and trained laypeople, with data entered into a common reporting system that can be accessed by scientists researching hemlocks and potential resistance to hemlock woolly adelgid. In this training, we will provide a brief overview of hemlocks and their ecological importance, the hemlock woolly adelgid, HWA, and elongate hemlock scale, EHS. Define what constitutes a lingering hemlock. Show you how to look for and identify a high-quality candidate lingering hemlock. Give an in-depth tutorial on using the TreeSnap app to collect and usefully report your findings in the field. Conclude with ending remarks preparing you for your search. The eastern United States and Canada are home to two species of hemlock trees, Tsuga canadensis and Tsuga caroliniana, the eastern hemlock and Carolina hemlock respectively. The eastern hemlock dominates the eastern forest landscape, occurring up and down the east coast from Canada to Alabama and spreading as far west as Minnesota. The eastern hemlock is a forest giant. It is typically found in riparian areas, growing along headwater streams, in moist, shady groves, and on north-facing slopes. Hemlocks are a foundational species in eastern forests, providing shelter, habitat, stream and bank stabilization, and numerous other ecosystem services. Adelgis tsugae, the hemlock woolly adelgid, or HWA, sucks the sap of hemlock trees, weakening trees, preventing new growth, and eventually killing trees. Infested trees lose needles and branches and typically die in 4 to 15 or more years, depending on environmental conditions, after the initial adelgid arrival, unless treated. The hemlock woolly adelgid's name comes from the insect's egg sacs, which form on hemlock twigs at the base of needles at certain times of year and look like small woolly tufts. These insects are invasive in eastern North America, introduced accidentally from Japan. Elongate hemlock scale, or EHS, is an exotic insect pest of hemlocks. It multiplies more quickly on stressed trees, including those already infested with hemlock woolly adelgid. This insect can be recognized by the presence of dry, crusty, yellowish-brown female or white male elongated scales and a white woolly substance similar to HWA. EHS attaches to the needles, while HWA attaches at the base of the needles on the stem. The ensuing rapid and widespread decline of hemlocks due to the presence of these pests is why this project is important. This study exists to identify hemlocks that are persisting longer than others out in nature, with the aim to research and identify why certain hemlocks are lingering longer than others, even after being persistently or chronically infested by HWA and EHS. Important strides have been made in hemlock conservation, but chemical control is not sustainable, and biological control is still being developed and therefore not yet fully effective. We need a long-term solution. One of the driving purposes of the Lingering Hemlock Project is to determine whether and to what extent there is heritable resistance or tolerance to these pests in hemlocks, and if so, what the best criteria will be to reliably detect it. Your participation in this project will help us make this protocol more effective and efficient. A lingering hemlock candidate is a tree that persists in a moderately healthy condition when the vast majority of surrounding trees have died or are severely declining due to pest pressure. A lingering hemlock is, and has, all of the following characteristics. As we go through these, keep in mind that just because a hemlock matches all of these does not necessarily mean it will for sure contain heritable genetic advantages. It just narrows the search window and creates a pool of quality candidates. At least 4 inches or 10 centimeters in diameter at breast height. Growing in a forest, not in a lawn or landscaped setting. In an area where more than 80% of surrounding hemlocks are dead and/or are severely declining due to HWA and EHS. Deep green needles compared to surrounding hemlock trees. Thick, full branches compared to surrounding hemlock trees. Less sky visible when looking up through tree canopy compared to surrounding hemlock trees. Has not been treated with pesticides or horticultural oils for at least 10 years to your knowledge. Before we look at each of these criteria in more detail, here are some additional tips. We are not expecting to find full resistance in wild-growing native hemlocks. Instead, if we do indeed find heritable resistance, it will likely be a partial resistance. As such, these lingering hemlock candidates will continue to decline and will eventually die. It is best to start by doing lingering tree searches in sites with the most stressful conditions, as to not miss out on any lingering trees before they succumb. These stressful conditions include steep slopes that are south or west facing, ridgetops, areas with low water availability, sites with warmer average temperatures as you decrease in elevation and increase in latitude, sites with denser stands comprised of larger hemlocks, or any other condition that may be adding to a hemlock's stress, such as natural disasters or other pests. It is good to look anywhere that has a decent hemlock component, especially in an area that has extensive mortality that is not actively being managed for HWA. The best time to look for lingering hemlocks is after the leaves have dropped off of deciduous trees. It will make the hemlocks easier to spot. It's important to be in places where you have permission, and preferably should be in places where researchers could also later obtain permission to collect samples from the candidate trees. In terms of sunlight, it's important to note that hemlocks respond very positively to and can better withstand HWA infestations with increased sunlight exposure. This may give a hemlock with no actual genetic resistance the same qualities as a lingering hemlock. These hemlocks may not be good candidates for tree snap. Do your best to determine if environmental factors, such as sunlight, are creating tolerance rather than the hemlock's genetic makeup. In general, large hemlocks tend to die faster than smaller hemlocks, so the larger the hemlock, the more significant its survival may be. Large, live hemlocks surrounded by dead hemlocks of a similar or smaller size class are exactly what we're looking for. However, if there is one surviving smaller hemlock surrounded by several much sicker-looking hemlocks of similar size, you may still submit this. However, this will likely be rare, as dead smaller trees are harder to ID and do not persist as long. In general, a lingering hemlock candidate should be the same size class as those in decline around it in order to qualify. Why do we focus on forested settings? Hemlocks growing in the open receive more sunlight than hemlocks growing under the closed canopy of a forest, and therefore can often better withstand hemlock woolly adelgid infestations. Planted hemlocks may be different, more HWA-tolerant species than our eastern hemlocks, and/or have had more nurturing or help, and are more heavily managed or altered, that make them unsuitable lingering hemlock candidates. Why do we want to focus on areas where more than 80% of surrounding hemlocks are dead and/or are in severe decline due to pests and pathogens? Anything less than 80% mortality or disproportionately declining health surrounding it and its survival may be due to other things, such as environmental conditions or time since infestation. Compared to others around it, a lingering hemlock will have darker, greener needles, thicker, fuller branches, and less sky visible when looking up through the tree canopy due to the density of its foliage. Finally, we want to make sure that it's a tree that has not been treated with pesticides or oils for at least the last 10 and preferably 20 or more years. We want to make sure that the tree is lingering and persisting on its own, without the aid of humans. There are exceptions to this rule as well. For example, if there is a hemlock surrounded by 80 or 90% mortality, and it was at the time of treatment the only one alive, then this one is okay to submit, with a note in the comment section. So, you found a hemlock that matches all of these criteria, and you want to report it as a lingering hemlock candidate. That's great! We're so glad you've made it this far. When you're ready to report, you will do so using the app TreeSnap. The public-facing TreeSnap app is intended to be used by public agency and non-profit field personnel, professional land managers, and trained volunteers who are searching for lingering hemlock in high hemlock mortality areas. Researchers working on hemlock resistance can access TreeSnap to view lingering tree data and can access more data about the location, such as site history, slope, and aspect. Also note that only approved researchers will be able to see the exact location of the hemlock. To begin, first download the TreeSnap app to your mobile phone. TreeSnap is available for download on iPhones, Androids, and other smartphones. Once the app has fully loaded, select Hemlock from the list of trees in the Observe section. This training will take you through the Add Entry process, but it's important to note the Information tab at the top as well. By clicking this tab, you can see important ID photos, reference distribution maps, have ready access to an overview of HWA and EHS, as well as read a description of hemlocks and lingering hemlocks. Now let's click back over to the Add Entry tab at the top. Click Location to acquire a GPS position of your location. You can click on More Options to enter your coordinates manually if you notice your phone's GPS is imprecise. Under Images, you may take wide pictures of the surrounding area to help provide context of your general location. Please make sure and allow TreeSnap to access your camera. Frame up your shot and click the circle at the bottom to take the picture. You can take multiple pictures by clicking the plus icon at the bottom. Please review your photos after you take them to be sure they are as clear and in focus as possible. When you are finished, click Done in the upper right. In the tree identifier field, which is optional, you can assign a unique ID to the tree or record, such as a tree tag number if it's in an area where that is feasible. IDs can be recorded by manually typing, or you can click on the camera icon to scan a barcode. Multiple IDs can be added by clicking Add Another ID. In the Collection Purpose section, click the drop-down arrow and check the box next to Lingering Hemlocks Data Reporting. Note that you can also select Personal Use if you want to record information about trees for personal reasons. There is also an option to complete a rapid mortality assessment. This protocol can be used as a tool to determine what the hemlock mortality is in your forest. It's a great way to check and see if that 80% mortality threshold has been met. If it has, you can proceed forward with a lingering hemlock submission. If it hasn't, installing a hemlock health monitoring plot might be best for you. Please visit our website for information and a training video on installing hemlock health monitoring plots. Then in the Observation Subject section, click the drop-down arrow and check the box that is most appropriate for your report. You can choose a single lingering hemlock, a group of lingering hemlocks, or you can report that the area is not yet ready for a lingering hemlock search, or that there are no hemlocks in this area. If you need a refresher on what qualifies as a lingering hemlock candidate, click the What is a Lingering Hemlock heading we'll explore the following courses of action for each of the 4 options. First, a single lingering hemlock surrounded by dead or dying hemlocks. When you click this box, you will notice that several more fields have appeared that require answers. First, the species. You can select Eastern Hemlock, Carolina Hemlock, other hemlock species, or I'm not sure. For the purpose of this project, you should only select Eastern Hemlock. Next is the field for tree diameter at breast height. Here you can estimate the diameter. You can measure the diameter using a DBH tape or Biltmore stick if you have one, or you can measure the circumference and have the app compute the diameter from that measurement. Please make sure that you select inches or centimeters based on how you measure. If you click on Show Examples, the illustration shows that you should measure the tree 4.5 feet up from the base of the uphill side if sloped. If the hemlock has multiple stems, measure each of them separately and then add them together to get your final DBH. Next is the field for Hemlock woolly adelgid, HWA. This is where you report adelgid infestation level. If you click Show Examples, you can see what the different levels look like by scrolling through the images. Depending on the time of year, you may not be able to see their woolly ovisacs, and you should instead assess based on the presence of nymphs. You may need magnification to see this life stage. Based on your observation, select Heavily infested if over 50% of needles have HWA presence, Moderately infested if 20 to 50% of needles have HWA presence, or Lightly infested if less than 20% of needles have HWA presence. You can also indicate if you do not see HWA, or if the branches are too high for you to be able to tell. In the next field, you were asked to add photos of the Hemlock woolly adelgid, HWA. Frame up your shot of the HWA and click the circle at the bottom to take the picture. Again here, you can take multiple pictures by clicking the plus icon at the bottom. Please review your photos to be sure they are in focus and clearly show what you intended to capture. When you're finished, click Done in the upper right. The next field asks about the elongate hemlock scale infestation. Please choose Heavily infested if over 50% of needles have EHS presence, Moderately infested if 20 to 50% of needles have EHS presence, or Lightly infested if less than 20% of needles have EHS presence. Then you can add your photos of observed EHS infestation. Again here, click the circle at the bottom to take your picture. Again, please review your photos to be sure they are in focus and clearly show what you intended to capture. Next is the Other Stressors field. Here you are asked if you see signs of other potential stressors on this tree. Click Yes or No. This will help determine if the lingering hemlock is being further damaged by things other than HWA or EHS. If you click Yes, another field appears to upload photos of the stressors, and below that is a field to tap to describe the stressors you find. The next field is Cones. Are cones present? Please take a close-up photo if possible. A picture with an example of a cone is provided. Click either Yes, No, or I'm not sure. This will help the researchers know if they may be able to make a cone collection from this tree. If you click Yes, a field appears to add a photo of cones. Next is Crown Health. How healthy is the crown of the tree, or the overall canopy if reporting a group of trees? Your best estimate is fine. If you click Show Examples, you can see pictures of a tree that is healthy, in decline, and in severe decline. Select from the following 4 options: Healthy, in decline, or severe decline. A description of each category is included to aid in your assessment. You can also select I'm not sure, and then describe why in the next field. Next is the Treated section. In this field, you are asked, has this tree or group of trees been treated with pesticides? Yes, no, or don't know. Remember, the caveat to this rule: some treated trees may still be good candidates if they were the only one alive during the time of treatment. The next field is crown position. Here you are asked, what is the crown position of the tree, or the largest tree if reporting a group of trees? You can choose from dominant, codominant, overtopped, not applicable. Choose not applicable if the hemlock is on a forest edge or if it is not forested at all. You can also select I'm not sure if you cannot tell. If you choose dominant, codominant, or overtopped, you will then be asked to comment on canopy closure. How closed would the total hemlock and non-hemlock forest canopy around the lingering tree or trees be in the summer? Very closed, moderately closed, or open. This information will help identify if there are confounding effects of increased exposure to sunlight. In the next field, you are asked to observe any recent growth. Is the tree or group of trees putting on new growth? You can click Show Examples to see pictures of healthy and unhealthy branch tips. Select the best choice from the given list. This will help show how healthy the hemlock is. The next section is tree markings, in which you are asked if the tree is marked, tagged, or flagged in any way. If you answer yes, you are asked to provide a photo of the mark, tag, or flag. Next, let us know the habitat in which the hemlock is growing. You can select any that might apply. Next, you are given a field to describe the habitat. The more information given, the better. Then you are asked if you have completed a lingering hemlock search training, yes or no. If you are watching this video, you can go ahead and enter yes for this question. After that, you are asked if you want to complete a surrounding assessment of at least 10 nearby hemlock trees. This is optional, but encouraged. As with everything else, the more information that's given, the better chance the researchers have to tell if this is a proper candidate. Click yes or no. If you select yes, several more fields appear, the first of which is Nearby Tree Crown Health. Here you can assess the health of each nearby hemlock, at least 10 if they can be found nearby, and up to 40 for a fuller mortality assessment. If you are reporting one or more lingering hemlocks, please exclude them from the surrounding tree search and remaining questions. You are asked to count all of the hemlocks in the area that are dead or downed, how many are dead or dying, which should have less than 20% of its crown remaining, how many are living, which is classified as a hemlock with 20 to 80% crown remaining, and how many are healthy, with more than 80% of its crown remaining. When you are finished, click Confirm. You will then be asked to describe the nearby tree's crown health. Next is a field to state whether or not you see signs of active forest management, such as recently cut stumps, flagging, disturbance, active road or track. Choose yes or no. If you click yes, you are asked to provide pictures, then asked to describe the active management that you see. Next, you are asked what percentage of nearby live hemlock trees have HWA. Next, you are asked what percentage of nearby live hemlock trees have EHS. The next field provides a place to describe any further stressors that you see in the trees. This will help determine if the surrounding trees were further weakened by something other than HWA or EHS. Finally, a comments field is provided to write any additional notes that you may have. This will be the place to add anything that is not covered in the rest of the submission or that was not made clear. For example, any sunlight considerations or information unknown, or if the hemlock doesn't match one of the qualifications, but you're still submitting it because of one of the caveats to the rules. You can also put any information about yourself that you think might be helpful for us to know, like your knowledge level, affiliation, or training status. There is no limit to what you can put here. We just went through the process to submit an observation for a single lingering hemlock. However, you may come across other situations, like a group of lingering hemlocks. Let's return to the main menu of the Hemlock tab and explore the other options that you might encounter. You should select a group of lingering hemlocks if there are more than one lingering hemlocks in the area. You'll be presented with similar options. The only different fields you will encounter relate to entering the number of lingering hemlocks. 1, 2 to 10, or more than 10. If you select more than 10, you will be asked in the next field to comment on the quantity and how different this group of lingering hemlocks is from the rest of the hemlocks in the surrounding area. If you should choose less than 80% of surrounding hemlocks are dead and/or dying and are not yet ready for a lingering hemlock search, you will only be asked if you've attended a lingering hemlock training and given an opportunity for comment. This negative data is still important, as it will tell researchers that this area is not yet ready for the search for lingering hemlocks. Finally, if you should choose no hemlocks in this area, new fields are presented. The first is no hemlocks because, with the options of area logged, all hemlocks found were dead and/or dying, no hemlocks here, either alive or dead. Next, you are asked to enter how much time you spent searching, entered in minutes. Then you are asked to describe the area. Finally, you will complete the training and comments fields. Like the previous comments field, this will be the place to add anything that is not covered in the rest of the submission or that was not made clear. Thank you for taking the time to complete this training for the Lingering Hemlock Project. Your involvement is essential to the success of this project and will help advance the long-term outcomes for restoring and maintaining hemlocks in our forests. You should now be able to define what constitutes a lingering hemlock, know where to look for a candidate lingering hemlock, and use the TreeSnap app to collect and report your findings in the field. Now that you have watched this video, please take the survey shown on your screen. This will help us know who has received our training and will give you an opportunity to provide feedback. If you have any remaining questions or are interested in in-person support, you can contact a Lingering Hemlock Project representative. Contact information can be found under the Contact tab on our website. Thank you again for your passion and your purpose. Good luck and good hunting.